Gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary and Mr. Chairman, from the onset of this problem, when the Congress was notified on Thursday, this last Thursday, I've had the opportunity to be working with the chairman and the leader of the minority and other members of the committee and the leadership. And we're working on a two-track basis, if you will, and that's what I really want to call to your attention. We're quite far ahead on the legislation. As the chairman may have indicated to you, starting on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we've taken a piece of legislation the Treasury sent up on Saturday and have now folded into a very comprehensive proposal with revisions that does primarily what you're asking it to do, but with the protections that the public has been asking for, and it's now in excess of 42 pages, and I'm sure it'll be longer than that before it works itself through the Senate. Our problem is on Monday, after having watched all the programs and participated in many of the conference calls with you gentlemen and with members of the prior administration, I became acutely aware that those of us inside the Beltway, those of us inside the Congress that are familiar with this problem, we're way ahead of the general public. And quite frankly, on Monday morning when I was talking to people in my district and districts across the country, it became acutely aware that the sun came up that day. And a lot of people went to work. And a lot of people couldn't understand what this panic was in Washington to adopt and pass a bill in a matter of days, granting $700 billion into the hands of the Secretary of the Treasury to take care of something that the people could not observe. And I felt that second track, that it was necessary for the President to join you all in setting the predicate of what the problem is. And I know it's difficult, but let me say, Mr. Secretary, many of us sometimes are taxed for how to describe something. You're so involved and immersed in this, you have to back up and think about average American people. They really want to know what is meant by far less than the alternative. And you've got to tell us. You've got to tell the American people. I think many of the members of this committee know, and that's why we're working and have moved considerably on this legislation. But the average American people, they don't know what you're really talking about when you say it's going to cost us far less than the alternative. And I would point out that maybe we can find some concrete examples. For one, when I was talking to one of my friends on Wall Street today, asking him to verify the money market run. And it was anonymously reported in some of the New York papers, and I think I had evidence of it in some of our conversations, whether it was with you or with other experts, that between 11 and 11:30 on Thursday last, the money markets in the United States were hit by a run that amounted to about $500 billion of $4 trillion in accounts. And that, as I understand it, it was essential for the Federal Reserve to pump $105 billion in the system and to suspend operations, or the money market accounts of the country would have, in fact, failed. One, you should tell us that. And then the ramifications if that were to happen, so that average Americans understand that a electronic run on money markets is no different today than a run on banks in 1929. And the catastrophic results are very similar or the same. You have not said that. The President has not said that. So when I talk to average Americans in my district and across this country, the sun came up today, they went to work today, they stopped and picked up gas today, they wonder what all the hullabaloo was about. Now, Mr. Secretary, let me give you the opportunity to tell us this $700,000 figure that's needed to solve this problem. 700 billion, I'm sorry, right, billion, trillion, million. Why is it far less than the alternative, and what is that alternative?
Okay, well, first of all, I thank you for your comment, and I agree with your comment. And let me say that although the chairman and I and many others have been thinking through alternatives for a long time if we needed them, we hoped we didn't need them, and we were confronted with a situation that unfolded very quickly. We had people staying up all night for a couple of nights, and so we weren't able to actually roll this out the way you would like to. We moved it out very quickly. Now, I would say in terms of the money markets, let me explain to you.
Mr. Secretary, I apologize. You weren't left much time, but we are going to have to keep to it. So
okay.
You may have to return to the question of the worst alternative a little bit later on. But if you want to do the money markets, do that one.
Okay, I'll do very quickly that there's there's $1.7 trillion of commercial paper even in the money markets. Commercial paper is short-term lending for businesses. And businesses need this money to flow, to fund daily operations. If they can't use that, it all goes back on the banks and it creates a big problem. So what we did, and we did it in a way in which it didn't disturb the level playing field, we guaranteed for a year all money market funds. We used some emergency powers, the Exchange Stabilization Fund to Treasury, but we did it funds that were there, through September 19th. So we weren't going to create a problem with an unlevel playing field going forward. And then we're giving the money markets a chance to decide to opt into this program and make some payment. So that was our action. But it will take there's a lot we all could do to explain how this relates to ordinary Americans, and we need to do a better job of explaining that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Because remember, we're trying to keep to 5 minutes, so if you